Hello everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. Just want to make sure that my volume was not too turned up. Anyway, let me start that again. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. So very happy to have everyone here. And thank you for joining me once again on this Saturday evening. Hope everyone's weekend has been going swimmingly and that everyone has been possibly getting some 4K titles that have been on sale. It's been pretty damn cool. I've been able to pick up a few. I've already talked about some of them. A couple new ones have since come in. I've been able to pick up The Gentleman on 4K. So very excited to finally be able to check that film out. And also was able to buy Dr. Sleep on 4K. It's a film that I actually, for the most part, enjoyed all the way up until the end where it kind of fell off the rails a little bit. But the 4K does come with a Blu-ray that has the director's cut version on it, which from what I've been told, kind of makes the ending not nearly as off the rails as it was. So I'm very, very excited about that. I've also, random thing, I've also been busy because I'm becoming a huge fan and have been a huge fan for a while now, but even more so, especially in the current state of our political climate, a huge fan of a YouTuber called Tim Pool, Timcast, really awesome channel, especially if you want to follow modern day news, because we all know the mainstream news media is so insane and is blatantly lying to the point of it just being not even funny anymore. But anyway, one of the things that he's been mentioning on his shows recently has been about how he has all of Wikipedia downloaded and ready to go if for any reason he has to either go off the grid or, God forbid, something crazy like an EMP happened. And again, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a prepper by any means. However, because of the craziness of things going on, I'm kind of leaning more towards maybe I should get a few things. Maybe I should get a few items. But one of the things that was actually pretty interesting was the fact that I had no idea that you could literally download all of Wikipedia, which I find fascinating. And so I've been dealing with that, getting it on my computer and everything else, and it's actually pretty cool. I mean, just the fact that I know that I have it literally in my pocket. I have a flash drive coming in tomorrow. I literally will have all of Wikipedia on my on a flash drive, which again is just, do I need it? Probably not. Will I ever find a use for it? Maybe not. But you know what? I don't know. I'm a tech head. You all know this. As much as I love films, I also love a lot of tech. And that kind of stuff just fascinates me to no end. And so that's what I have been up to. Also, I need to give out a huge shout out to the newest Patreon member, Andrew Hoyle, who is a member on the channel. I see him in the live chat. And so shout out to you, good sir. Just got the notification that you had joined over on Patreon. So thank you for becoming a Patreon member. He is a part of the Chosen of Valhalla. And so if he wants to, he can actually join us as early as tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be having our Chosen of Valhalla live stream at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the main channel. And he will be more than welcome to join. And so, Andrew Hoyle, please check your messages on Patreon. I sent you the Discord link. I gave some instruction about how to be able to get in for giveaways and such, and also how I'm going to try and get the shirt to you as well, because when you join at that level, you also get a shirt sent to you. And also, you get access to be able to join if you want. Again, you do not have to, but if you want to join the Chosen of Valhalla stream, you can indeed join. And we have our next one tomorrow. Anyway, let me say hello to some people in the chat. Let's say hello first to some D-Lav fam. We got Philly the Hobbit, Captain Dean Heiss. How are both of y'all doing? Also, shout out for some people who have been members on the channel for a while now. Just got updated about this a few days ago. So Nitrium, thank you very much. Sorry, Nitrium, thank you very much for being a member for 9 months in a row. Alex McCarthy for being a member for 9 months in a row. ZK-Man, 9 months as well. And then for 8 months, we've got Jace Doe, Forever Sci-Fi, Aiden Vickery, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, and Mr. Peabody. So thank you all very much for being members. The Bosco 2000 has been a member for 7 months in a row, and Jens Jorgensen, a member for 5 months. So thank you all for being members, and shout out to all of the members on the channel. Those were just the ones that I was notified about with these streaks going on. It's kind of crazy to think that memberships have been live on the channel for almost a year. Again, the timing of everything and the way that time has flown this year is kind of insane in a lot of different ways. So let me say hello now to my YouTube fam. How's it going, everybody? Lord Toth was here at 5:03. How are you doing, Lord Toth? Pat S., who's also a member on the channel, was here too. Mr. Peabody, who's a member, also says, what's the deal with the meerkat? I don't know. I don't trust them, though. Anything with cat in its name, I just don't trust. Joseph Ippolito, what's going on? Brazilian We Bear fans. Joseph Nash, yes, indeed. I'm always a Franciscan monk, especially when it's cool outside. Titan, how is it going? Let's see. Father Christopher, Hail Father, said, just lurking in the background, but I'm not here. Well, hopefully, if you're celebrating Mass, you don't have me on in the background. That would be a very odd experience. I'd appreciate it, however. Don't do that, Father. And I'm just kidding. Hound 3000, Wolf Arf, Bark, what's going on? Golden Ration, thank you for tagging me. Says, good evening, Odin. Good evening, all. Good evening to you, Golden Ration. Glad to see you in the chat. Tina B, what's going on, Tina B? So very glad to have the Empress of the Universe back in the chat, one of my mods. Andrew Hoyle, there he is. Member of the channel, says, try again. Whatto, chaps. How's it going, good set? How's it going? Jay Stowe says, early this time. Jay Stowe, very glad to have you here early. Always appreciate you being here early, on time, late. If you're here in Asgard, time is relative. Now that is something to think about. 2020 is a trash fire. Truer words have never been said in a name. Still to this day. Let's see. Orange Chat Reviews says, hey-o, what's going on, Orange Chat Reviews? Hope you are doing very well. Swimmingly, as some might say, and I do. Andrew Hoyle at 6:55 says, I must remember to mute when talk of Cara Dune show comes up. So Andrew Hoyle, just like usual, when I talk about the Mandalorian episode this week, if I start to talk about spoilery things, that I think are spoilers, I'll try and, say, hey, I'll talk about a spoiler, put my hand up, and then when I'm done talking about it, I'll take it out. But obviously, I can't control the chat. I can recommend and suggest, hey, chat, don't try and spoil too many things. But obviously, if there's nothing that you want to know or nothing about Cara Dune or anything like that, obviously that is totally up to you. But I will try and do that for anyone who still needs to catch up with the latest episode of The Mandalorian. Alice McCarthy, who's a member, what's going on, good sir, says, howdy, Odin, how's it going? How's the Thor and the pizza? Well, we had some Domino's last night for the first time in a long time, and there's just a special place in my heart for Domino's. There's just something about the garlicky crust, and again, I think it's delicious. I know there's some that hate it. I personally am a huge fan of that hand-tossed light sauce double pepperoni. That's exactly the way it needs to be. So I had some of that today for my lunch and for dinner. It was a major pizza weekend here in Asgard. And of course, baby Thor is doing very well. I've got some pictures to share on Twitter and Instagram later on with him and a hammer. It was very fun indeed. we had that photo shoot earlier in the day because he had an awesome onesie on. It's a onesie that was actually sent to us by a member of the channel who, it's the one, where's my hammer? I can't remember if that was sent by Frank or if that was sent by Mr. Peabody. I honestly cannot remember, but whoever it was, shout out to you. We have pictures of baby Thor in it. Let's see, Emilius Comics, what's going on, Emilius Comics? How are you doing? OMG, WTF, Barbecue Kitten, what's going on? OMG. Glad to see you back in the chat. Pat S. Hail to you, good sir. Glad to see you live. Rob D. in the chat. Blake St. Clair, how's it going? Good to see you here. Venom Burley 93, how's it going? The Kingslayer says, why don't you like The Dark Knight Rises? Because it's just not a very good movie. And it makes a lot of sense. He obviously had an idea in mind for the end of his trilogy. Then you had Heath Ledger die, and he had to change those plans, and it led to a subpar script. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Is it a well-made movie? Sure. But the script isn't very good. The sound mixing on the film is also really atrocious, and especially when you compare it to the previous films. There's a lot of people that criticize The Dark Knight for the way that they change his voice, and I will admit they do some weird post-processing on his voice, which is completely unnecessary, especially when you compare it to what amazing stuff they were able to do with that in Batman Begins. But then The Dark Knight Rises has those same issues, but also even more so because they just destroy Bane. They honestly destroy Bane. Just the voice, not the character, but the voice is just totally destroyed. You can tell that it's not matched up. Even though you can't see his mouth, you can see his throat moving, and you're like, this feels like it's ADR. You feel like they recorded some of this stuff after the fact, and it just doesn't seem to work. And even if they did for some reason, if anyone's going to say, well, actually, it was his voice, well, then whatever they did in post-processing, it made it look like it didn't match up. So it doesn't matter because no matter what happens, it doesn't look good. So the story is not very good on that movie. And again, you can like the film. You can subjectively enjoy it until you're blue in the face. It's got some objective issues, especially with the storytelling. It's amazing how people always get, oh my gosh, why do you hate it? Why do you don't like this movie? Because it's not that great. And also, I mean, that's just looking at it individually. If you compare that to the other two films of the franchise, it can't even hold water. It's not worthy to tie the shoes of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Like, it's amazing because a lot of films, a lot of times you have trilogies, you say, okay, which one's better? Like Lord of the Rings, okay, which one's your favorite? There's people I feel like that will defend each of those movies. Personally, I'm more fond of Two Towers, only because it has the best battle in all of cinema history, maybe. Obviously, that's a subjective thought right there. But I also really love the first film. And some people actually would say, no, Return of the King is the best one. I actually like Return of the King the least. I think all three are fantastic. All three work together. All three are very well-made movies. But there's just something about the introduction to the Shire that just makes me feel like I'm at home. It just has this very homey feel to it. But then you talk about the Dark Knight trilogy, and there is no real contingent of people that say The Dark Knight Rises is even in the conversation. And if there is anyone who is, I honestly think that they're lying to themselves. Again, subjectively, you can enjoy it, but objectively, it's just night and day. So hopefully it's the last time I have to address that, because I feel like I've answered that a few times, and everyone's still like, but why? Why don't you like it? Why don't you like it? Rob D calling me out says, Odin's busy counting his 4Ks. I actually don't have as many 4Ks as you would think. I've got a crap ton of Blu-rays, but my 4K collection is still in its infancy, as I'm not willing to upgrade all my movies. The new number 2, what's going on, the new number 2? Glad to see you here. We got Nathan Slay in the chat as well. Super Anime Gamer 01, what's going on, Super? Says, heyo, what is up, my dude? How is it going? 2020 is a trash fire, says, at least it's not low like Gary's. Yes, this is true. This is very, very, very true. And also, I'm on time, unlike Gary, who's usually 30 minutes to 2 hours late. I think that's a pretty fair assessment right there, but I love Gary. Much love to Gary, and much love, of course, to the Friday Night Tights crew. The Franciscan monk Odin is here. Hail to you, good sir. Let's see, GMonkey76 is here. Rob D. Tagna says, I'm going to go to Best Buy tomorrow. I'll probably finally buy the Lord of the Rings extended editions. Nice, Rob D. Rob D, I will say this. Hold off on anything Lord of the Rings. The reason why is because December 1st, the new editions, the 4K Lord of the Rings extended and theatrical, go on sale. And there's a few different editions. You can get like the standard edition, which I think is like maybe $80 or $90, which again, I know is pretty pricey. But when you talk about having 3 of the greatest films of all time on 4K with both the extended and theatrical, with Lord knows probably a ton of extra special features too, sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm actually stuck between a couple, waiting for one of my next paydays to maybe consider getting this set. But there's 2 other sets, more special editions. There's a 4K Steelbook set from Best Buy, which is very similar to the Rambo set I showed earlier over the last couple weeks. And so it's very similar. It's in a metal box, and also, it has each individual title in its own 4K disc as well. 4K Steelbook disc. So I'm very much considering that potential, because Steelbooks obviously are a collector's item and they go pretty quickly because there's a limited supply. But there's another set that actually might make me forego the Steelbooks, and it's because it's a set that also contains the One Ring. It's a collector's edition set that also has the One Ring. And I actually don't, as nerdy as I am and as much of a collector as I am, I actually don't have the One Ring. Of all the items that I would have gotten, I never got the One Ring. When I was younger, I actually strongly considered getting all of the swords, because they used to sell, I mean, they probably still do, all the different swords from the films and all the different rings from the films and all that, because again, I'm a collector. Just one of the things that I do. But that is, I think, the one I'm going to try and go with. So anyway, if that interests you at all, hold off, Rob D. Though I will say that I think the extended editions on Blu-ray are now incredibly discounted. I think you can get that now for like $10 to $20, which again, all 3 films extended edition for $20 or less is pretty damn good. Venerable93 says, your beard is so big now. Well, it's been big for a long time, and it's going to continue to grow because that's just what beards do. Let's see. Andrew Hoyle says, I get all of my news from Ron Burgundy. My name is Ron Burgundy. And yes, Tina, you can download all of Wikipedia. In total, the file that I have, because there's a couple of different apps you can use, and I want to say the pure file itself is like around 107 gigs, so pretty big file. The one that I have, though, I think is about a month behind, and that one was around 96 gigs. So you need some space for. Luckily, I had some space on my computer, so I'm actually right now in the process of downloading Gutenberg's online. So there's a Project Gutenberg, which gets a lot of books that are not, I was going to say open source, but that's not what they are. But basically the ones that no longer have copyright restrictions on them. So basically, public domain books, essentially, they collect them all and put them together. And so that is like 60 gigs of books. So I'm downloading that literally as the stream is going on right now. And again, these are all public domain, so it's totally free. It's totally legal as well. And so, yeah, I have one phone that has all of Wikipedia and a couple other things. My Chromebook is also in the process of getting some files set up. And then I plan to also get a bunch of, there's also something really cool I didn't know existed, but there's something called Wiki Sources. And it actually is a collection of a lot of first and second hand accounts. So digitized, also, copyright-free sources that you can get. Books and stuff that's just, again, that kind of stuff fascinates me. And even though obviously it's will I ever actually read all that stuff? Probably not. It's still just nice to have it. And if if God forbid anything ever were to happen with our internet in our country where these things get blocked or get regulated, well, I don't have to worry about that. Nathan Slay says, I might decide to buy Sicario in 4K since there seems to be a good deal on that, and I hear the movie's good. Dude, $10 for the Sicario 4K is an excellent deal, Nathan Slay. If you're a collector and if you just like good movies, get it. $10 for that is great. I want to say I already have that one on 4K, and if I don't, I'm going to buy it. In fact, actually, since I'm talking about it, let me try and look over and see. So actually, I have the first Sicario film. It looks like it's just on regular Blu-ray. Ooh. But what's interesting is that I don't see Sicario 2 Day of the Soldado, which I do own. I'll have to look around because I definitely own 1 and 2, Sicario 1 and 2, and I know that Sicario 2 film I bought was the 4K edition, so I actually might be getting the Sicario on 4K because that film is probably one of my all-time favorite movies in modern era filmmaking. At the very least. Let's see. Orange Hat Reviews is a member on the channel, says, okay, I'm back. Odin, how are you? I'm doing just fine. Andrew Hoyle at 704 says, I'm in it for the shirt. Well, dude, I'll find a way. We'll find a way. My shirts come from TeePublic or Teespring, and I'm sure one of those will ship internationally. And yeah, dude, that is something that your membership covers. For that first month, you can get a shirt, and I will send it to you. No matter the cost, good sir. And thank you again for being a member on the channel. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's see. 13th Warrior is in the chat. How is it going? Glad to see you here. Stephanie B in the chat. How's it going, Stephanie B? Hope you are doing swimmingly. Very much appreciate you being here. And as the chat jumps on me, we got 55 people watching on YouTube, so please smash that like button. Would really mean a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm actually considering putting someone in timeout, not because they're doing anything wrong necessarily, but just because I've been wanting to for a long time. I know that sounds terrible, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay. Tina B, Meerkat. Yes, indeed, Meerkat. All right. I'm caught up over there at 7:05. It is 7:18 in real life, but let me jump now over to my D-Lab fam real quick. Captain High says, download all of Wikipedia. That's just craziness. Yeah, 96 gigs. 96 gigs, but it is possible. You can download all of Wikipedia for offline use. And I'm going to be honest, Wikipedia has come a long, long way. And it's something that I actually talked with another teacher about recently, about how Wikipedia really is a good source. And I know that's kind of anathema, especially when you talk to English teachers, because the number one thing English teachers, and I do it too, and I still stand by this as far as students are concerned, and that is that Wikipedia is not a valid source. The reason why, though, is because if students knew how to use it correctly, it could be an excellent resource. The way that I normally word it is, if you want to use Wikipedia as an initial, okay, let me just find out a little bit more about this piece of, maybe I'm looking up a sacrament, maybe I'm looking up a saint, maybe I'm looking up this or that, and you just get a basic overview. But the key is you go down to the sources, because Wikipedia is only worth anything because of the incredible amount of sources that have been cited in those articles. Because those sources are normally, like 99% of the time, are legit sources. They tie into legitimate news articles, they tie into legitimate textbooks, all that kind of stuff. And so it can be used as a great tool. The problem is that students love the easy out. And so they would much rather just copy and paste something from Wikipedia, which again, the information is likely accurate, is likely correct, but it's a problem because they don't really know where it's coming from. They'll just say it's from Wikipedia, but it's not. Wikipedia is not its own independent source. When Wikipedia is a collection of people, because again, pretty much anyone can edit Wikipedia, and it's kind of like this blockchain mentality where it's very hard to put in incorrect information without it being corrected pretty quickly for the most part. But it is still something that I feel a lot of students are trying to, they think they know how to use it, but they really don't. But yes, all of Wikipedia, good sir. Freedom Hotline, thank you for the ice cream donation. I appreciate that. Alexander, what's going on? Let's see. Fat Pig Signals, thank you for the lemon donation. Billion Hobbit says, I found Whiplash Steelbook for $6 on bestbuy.com. Yeah, dude, it's a nice steelbook. I actually have that steelbook, and it's really, really nice. However, there's now a Whiplash 4K steelbook. So the fun thing, though, is that when I do get upgrades, when I do upgrade movies in my collection, I put them on the side right here, and then I use them in future giveaways for either my Patreon Subscribe Star people or also even on the main channel. At some point, I will be doing another giveaway because they take up some time, and we're on a very tight schedule, especially with having to bathe baby Thor. I haven't been able to do them recently, but don't worry. I have a collection of films over here. So I'm not doing any giveaways tonight because I just don't have time set aside for it. But things that I can give away are films like The Last Starfighter, because this actually just got in the other day. I think I showed this already, but Arrow Video sent me The Last Starfighter, or MVD Visual sent me Arrow Video's The Last Starfighter. So again, this is a really, really cool version because Arrow Video is kind of like the Criterion of more cult films. So anyway, this will be featured in future giveaways. Also, this was an extra film I received from Arrow Video as well for anyone that is an Arrow Video collector. It's a film called Jesus Shows You the Way to the Highway. So again, I've never seen this one before, but again, Arrow Video has some really good releases. So again, this is completely unopened, and so people might be wanting to have that. And then a couple of things where some might love one of the options, some might hate one of the options because of recent comments, especially by one of the actors. But anyway, I've got the Daniel Craig collection on Blu-ray because I actually just bought the other day the entire James Bond collection. And so up to that point, I had only had 2 sets. And so this has Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, which is terrible, and Skyfall, which I thought was pretty good. So 2 really good films in this collection. And then I also have one people will probably like a little more, and that is I have the Roger Moore collection, Volume 2. And this has Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to Kill. So anyway, those will be featured in future giveaways. So that's the kind of stuff that I have. Also, because I digitized my collection, I've got a bunch of digital codes that I can give away in the future too. So lots of stuff going on here in Asgard. And we're having fun. Phonema, what's going on? Just joined over on DLive. And so thank you for being here. And YouTube fam, make sure you smash that like button. 61 people watching. So let's go ahead and get started talking about The Mandalorian, Chapter 12. This episode was very good. This has definitely been the best episode of this current season. I wouldn't say it's the best episode of The Mandalorian, completely, only because there were some episodes in season 1 that were really damn good. Like, just really, really solid. And I want to say one of the reasons why this episode especially is getting so much praise from so many people is because Carl Weathers directed this episode. Chubbs himself directed this episode. He plays the character Grief Karga. And he obviously he's very solid on the show because he is such a presence. He has such charisma about him that even in the supporting character like he has with Grief Karga, he owns the screen when he's there. It helps when you also have Cara Dune, another great character, in this case acted by Gina Carano, who also, again, Gina Carano has become a star. Seriously, because she has been completely supportive of free speech. She has not bowed to the Twitter social media mobs. And one thing that I thought was even most recently awesome was the fact that she said, yeah, I went off grid for 12 to 24 hours to just enjoy nature. And she posts this picture of herself just going on a hike somewhere, like on a mountain with snow. And I'm like, that's awesome. You don't see a lot of actors nowadays doing that, where they're spending their time when they are on social media promoting the work that they're in. So doing promotion work for The Mandalorian, and doing so without making it political. Talking about political things, but in a fair and even-tempered way, right? Really talking not even about specific issues, but saying freedom of speech is important. Locking down is damaging. These are all, again, commonsensical stuff, really apolitical stuff. But we live in a world now where it seems like common sense has just been thrown out the damn window. So having Gina Carano back on screen was great. The one thing that I love about her as an actress is the fact that she does her own stunts, because she worked in UFC, because she has that fighting training background. She's able to do her own stunts, and it just adds something to anything she does on screen. Because typically what you'll have an actor who's just there because they're a pretty face or because they have some acting talent, and then when there's any time in an action role, anytime an action stunt needs to be done, they do all this quick cut editing or show you the back of their head and it's very clearly a stunt double, and it just, these extra cuts really, I think, drag down storytelling, especially I feel like in modern day storytelling, especially since modern day storytelling is not even that great in the first place. And so just to have that extra bit of time spent on just her, where she'll do a role, and instead of them having to cut to anything, it's just her. So she does this role, and then boom, it's her face, and you don't have to worry about cutting away because she's the one that's actually doing it. And so I think that adds just a level of realism to it. That's why if you want to see a great film starring Gina Carano, I highly recommend the film Haywire. And the reason why Haywire is so damn good is not just because she's in it and because she can do all these stunts, but it's because they don't cut away. The fight scenes in the film are so raw, they don't even play music underneath them. You hear all of the sounds. Now, I'm sure, did they probably add in some background sounds? Almost in every single movie they do that. But just the fact that you don't have that music drowning anything out, and you're just hearing the actors themselves fighting, and they're not cutting away because she's doing it all herself, it was just so damn refreshing. And it's a great film for that reason alone, right? Is it a groundbreaking film that's going to be one of the greatest films of all time? Maybe not. But is it a film that's unique? Is it a film that is, I think, going to stand the test of time because there's no other film really like it? I think so. And I'm glad that Gina Carano has shown herself to be someone who is just a common sense individual, an apolitical common sense individual, which is just so refreshing to see. And to see also her and Carl Weathers going back and forth on Twitter and social media was also really refreshing to see, because Lord knows Gina Carano has gotten attacked nonstop. The fact that people in the Twitter mob have tried to take her down, and you still have Carl Weathers saying this woman's awesome, and it's going right back and forth. It's awesome to see that happen, because in this age of Hollywood that we live in now, it would be very easy for Carl Weathers to disavow her. It'd be very easy for Carl Weathers to be making comments against her, but he's not doing that. And so seriously kudos to him. Kudos, of course, to Gina Carano, because whenever those two were on screen together, which actually was a huge portion of this episode, it was magic. And it was so much damn fun to see. Again, maybe not the best episode necessarily, but definitely of the entire series, but of this season, easily the best episode. And the reason why is because episode 3 of the first season, The Sin, which was directed by Deborah Chow, I thought was some great television. Also, Chapter 7, directed also by Deborah Chow, was also fantastic and strong. So, to me, the best episodes of this show so far have been the 2 by Deborah Chow and the 1 by Carl Weathers. What's interesting about all of that, though, is that any criticism that I have of current Disney-era Star Wars when it comes to the sequel trilogy, immediately I'm going to be labeled an istinophobe, even though I've just labeled the 3 best episodes of this show are directed by Deborah Chow and Carl Weathers. And the best people in the show are Carl Weathers and Gina Carano. But I must be an istinophobe. And none of that's relevant, but I just thought it was worth noting just because obviously that's just the age that we live in. But anyway, a very strong episode. Again, I don't really want to dive too much into spoilers. So if you're coming here for a spoiler discussion, I'm sorry for that. But the action was just really great. We finally got some movement in the story back to the main storyline. There was some pretty cool stuff revealed at the end, which has gotten some people, I think, kind of mixed because it seems to be borrowing somewhat from Legends era Star Wars. And obviously, you have people like RK Outpost Ryan Cannell who hates that they're doing that because it was done so much better, seemingly in the canon, or rather in what we believe to be canon, our head canon really, the actual real Star Wars canon, but what we now call Legends universe. And I think that Carl Weathers did a great job. And I was interested because I thought, I was wondering if Carl Weathers had ever directed anything before. And sure enough, he actually has directed television before. And so I think that you could definitely tell because he definitely knew what he was doing. Obviously, this is still Jon Favreau's ship. Jon Favreau is still the one writing all the episodes. He's still the creator of the universe and of this specific universe. And I think it was great. Having just, again, Dune and Karga be the main people in this show and in this episode specifically, I think was just absolutely fantastic. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. CGI was on par, was really on point as well. Again, you all know that I love when CGI is done well. The use of practical effects is still amazing. Again, I still love that they're able to do that with especially a lot of the flying ships and a lot of the characters. Like, again, the character design, especially on these ones that have been obviously complete practical effects, has just been so refreshing. It really has been. It's been fantastic. So, yeah, very, very, very fond of this most recent episode, Chapter 12, The Siege, again, directed by Carl Weathers. And if you're someone that hasn't seen it yet and are hesitant to, again, don't go in with your hopes up expecting your whole life to be changed, but do go in expecting to have fun. And I think if you're open to have fun, you're going to have fun with this episode. As I said, because I think the main reason why is because Carl Weathers and Gina Carano have great chemistry together just as friends on screen. And it works very well. And obviously Baby Yoda's in it, and Baby Yoda is still adorable. And I don't care if you hate Baby Yoda because I still think he's cute. Anyway, that is all that I have. Let me jump now to D-Live real quick before jumping back over to YouTube. See what's going on over on the D-Live. Let's see. Phonemo says, so Baby Yoda not only eats babies, but now he is a thief. Baby Yoda does all the terrible things, but it's okay. I'll forgive him because he's adorable. Oh, Lord. All right, Rob D, what's going on back over on YouTube at 7:05 over there? It is 7:32, so I'm about 25-ish minutes behind. Pretty standard. Rob D says, Odin, you can top downloading all of Wikipedia, download yourself into the internet like Scarlett Johansson in the movie Lucy. Yeah, but then it could also be like the movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp, which was terrible, so I don't think I want to do that because it's just one step away from being a terrible movie. 70B, what's going on? Says, hey, working from my phone, having tech issues with my net. Very sorry to hear that, 70B, but glad to have you here for as long as we have you. Let's see. Soul Assassin, how is it going? Glad to see you here. Let's see. Hardwick says, people assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Okay, Doctor Who. Aiden Vickery, what's going on? Good sir. He's a member on the channel. Cobra Viper 999 in the chat. Nathan Slade tagged and says, just watched the copy of Toy Story 2 I bought recently, and I'm smiling with glee that it is an untainted copy, meaning that controversial blooper is still there. Yeah. I have the full Toy Story franchise, the trilogy. Yeah, that's right. I said trilogy. There are no other films. Simple as that. And so, yeah, the version I have also untainted. Has not been moved around. JKDBuck76, how's it going? Saw you here a few minutes after I created the event itself. So glad to see you back. Joseph Nash, glad to see you in the chat as well. All right, Michael Skewiff. Dude, Michael Skewiff. It's been a long time since I've seen that name in the chat, so welcome back, good sir. Glad to see you here. Let's see. Blake St. Clair says, Helm's Deep is a brilliant battle scene. Yeah, going back to discussion earlier about trilogies and about how you have solid trilogies like Lord of the Rings where every single film is great and can be defended as being the best, whereas the Dark Knight trilogy, it's clear that you have the first two, Batman Begins, Dark Knight, as great And then Dark Knight Rises just doesn't hold up, just doesn't hold a candle to the other two films. But yeah, Blake St. Clair says, Helm's Deep is a brilliant battle scene. Yeah, Helm's Deep is definitely one of the best battle scenes ever recorded on film. Nathan Slay says, 1000% agree with you on The Dark Knight Rises. As much as I love Chris Stuckman, I didn't like his comment about if you don't like The Dark Knight Rises, why do you even watch movies? That's what he said. Well, yeah, Chris Stuckman has good takes and he has bad takes. Just like I have good takes and I have bad takes, I'm sure. I know for a fact that I've had bad takes in the past that I've either regretted or changed my mind on or have stuck with, still recognizing that it's a bad take. That's just the nature of movies, right? I mean, as someone that misses the time when I was in high school and would go see movies and would spend an hour to 2 hours in the parking lot talking about the film after the fact with my friends, debating and talking about things we liked, didn't like, things that we noticed or didn't notice. That's just what happens. That's just the nature of the beast. So, yeah. Tina says, I preferred The Two Towers myself. I didn't really love Return of the King until I saw the extended edition. Too much felt cut out of the theatrical version. Well, I would say that for all three of them, I think the extended editions add so much. It's not just added fluff. It's added stuff that adds more context. And you know how much I really care about context. But it adds so much more context that I think enriches the story and it does not detract from it. General Wingster, glad to see you back in the chat. Andrew Hoyle, who's a member, says, I just got the 4K Christopher Nolan box sets for 80, was that euro? Well, that's awesome, Andrew Hoyle. I want to say that 4K box set is not available stateside. It's interesting because on some recent videos where I've mentioned Blu-ray sales, I've had some people from the UK saying that they're upset that they don't get the same deals. But I'm telling you, UK, y'all get some box sets, y'all get some steelbooks, some 4K titles that we don't get here in the States without paying a heavy premium for that shipping cost. So that's awesome. Andrew. Super, though, tags at 712 and says, I'm good, thanks, putting off working on my homework because it requires me to watch a god-awful movie and low-key facing an existential crisis. Well, I hope you're not facing a crisis too badly. But what bad movie is it? What bad movie is it? And how do you know if you've never watched it? John Robertson, how is it going? Glad to see you in the chat. Harwick says, I've eaten a type of pineapple pizza that even you might like. No, I'm not. I'm just going to stop reading that. You said pineapple on pizza. Not going to happen. Sorry. Orange Hat. Fell deeds awake. Now for wrath. Now for ruin. And the Red Dawn. Best rally scene that gives me chills, especially when the horn sounds, shudders with positive goosebumps. Yes. Abso-freaking-lutely. So many great things, so many great parts of that specific scene. Orange Chat Reviews says, I wear the One Ring proudly on my thumb. Nice. Nathan Slade, Toy Story 2 has always been one of my favorite movies. It is the Toy Story movie I rewatch the most. Yeah, I think like 3 the most. I think 3 is the best all-round film. Obviously, I'm very fond of the first movie, and the second movie's good. It's just, the second movie's never been one I've been too fond of, personally. General Wingster says, I watched Asblade Demon Souls today. The game looks fantastic. I saw him playing earlier as well. I've not actually seen the gameplay for it, though. Jay Stowe is a member, says, that sounds so good. Get that collector set for Lord of the Rings and go around with the ring, my precious. Yes, stupid fat hobbitses. My precious. Yes. That is exactly what I will become. Yes, public domain, JKD Buck. Thank you for that. Let us see. Golden Ration says, maybe need to get second-handed 50-book encyclopedia. Ooh, yeah, Golden Ration. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Going the old-school book route is fantastic. Again, I think that that's great. I know that if an apocalypse ever happened, I would try and actually, one of the things I would try and find is a library. Because obviously or at least a huge portion of knowledge will be stored there. But also being able to have it on a device is also very convenient as well. Because having it especially on a flash drive, even if there would be like an EMP attack or anything like that, at some point you'd be able to get a computer that was turned off up and running, and then all you would need to do is just, boot it up and boom, you can have access to it. Though, again, I'm sure that I'm making it sound more complicated than it needs to be or more simplistic than it needs to be. And yes, I just saw someone mention this. Taylor Sheridan is a boss. Dude, Taylor Sheridan absolutely is a boss. And for those that don't know, Taylor Sheridan is the brilliant writer of films like Sicario. But seriously, like, he has done so many great things, and I'm so looking forward. Speaking of Wikipedia, so he did Sicario, which was absolutely fantastic. He did Hell or High Water. He wrote that film, also freaking fantastic movie. He wrote and directed his directorial debut was a movie called Wind River. I've talked about that before on the channel because it deals specifically with crimes that occur on Indian reservations. And again, brilliant film. So freaking good. He wrote and directed that one. He also did a show called Yellowstone, which I have not seen, but I want to for the pure reason that he's there. He also wrote Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado, so it wasn't as good as the first Sicario, but that's only, I think, because of the director. Because they did not get Denis Villeneuve back on it, and I think that hurt the film, but it was still very well written. It was still an incredibly well written story, and I think that's the only reason why the sequel really worked as well as it did. And then he wrote another film called Without Remorse, which has not come out yet, I don't believe. And then Those Who Wish Me Dead, he wrote, directed, and produced. It says here it's an upcoming American neo-Western thriller with a screenplay by Michael Coriata and Sheridan, based on Corita's novel of the same name. Stars Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult, Tyler Perry, John Bernthal, and Aidan Gillen. Some good people, some bad people. But again, it'll be well directed and it'll be well written. So they might actually make some of those actors bearable. If anyone can do it, it would be Taylor Sheridan. That is for sure. All right. Chat has jumped on me like it always does over on YouTube. Alrighty. Let's see here. Where did we leave off? All right. Looks like some comments may have been skipped. Keely Chow, how's it going? I just saw that name in the chat. Zaid Manzani, how's it going, good sir? Thanatos Felicitas is in the chat. Let me jump now just to D-Lav real quick. Phonema says, by far your worst take is how you like your steak cooked. Yes, I know a lot of people have absolutely hated my take on steak, which is, of course, well done. It's just because it tastes better. I know there's people that say, no, it doesn't. To your mouth, yeah, sure. But to my mouth, if it's well done, it tastes better. That's just how it is. It is what it is. Now, again, if there's a little bit of pink in there, I'm okay. I'm fine with that. But if it's got to be well done and juicy, like it's got to be cooked all the way through and still juicy. You know, if it's an actual, because everyone says, oh, you like the hockey? It's a hockey puck. No, I don't like hockey pucks. All right, I don't like hockey pucks. But if it's well done, if it means it's cooked all the way through, but it still has those delicious juices in there, that's the best. Because then the texture is right. Because raw meat, any bit of raw or rare, it's too chewy. It's too chewy. Again, that's just for me. Bringing that up again. That's going to start a firestorm in the chat. All right, we got Gannison Elita Troll. What's going on, Gannison? Says, hi, how are you? Been a long time. It has been a long time. Hope everything is going well in your neck of the woods, halfway across the world. Thanatos Felicitas says, you should just hose down baby Thor. He's just a baby. Can't hose him down. What are you talking? Can't hose him down. Todd Tyler, how's it going? Keck44, how's it going? Saja Neons says, good game news. B-Wings and TIE Defenders being added to squadrons on free update. You play with the other geeks and gamers folk. Bad game knees. The woke of bad game news. The woke of us 2 likely will be game of the year 2020 personified. Well, we live in a year where Andrew Cuomo or Chris Cuomo? They're all the same to me because they're both asshats. But whichever one's the governor of New York, which I think is Andrew Cuomo, he got an Emmy. It wasn't even that he got nominated; he was given an Emmy for the speeches that he gave during the peak of Corona. Last time I checked, he has one of the worst death rates per capita in the entire, if not just country, but even I think in the world. The worst death rate per capita. And yet he's going to get an Emmy for his talks? That's ludicrous. That's absolute lunacy. That is 2020 personified. Where even if you are in charge of a state and your decisions lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of people, you get an award. It's ridiculous. It is completely ridiculous. And obviously at this point now, we fall into open forum. And so, feel free to put your questions out there, and I'll try my very best. Because obviously there's some things I can answer, there's some things I can't answer, but we should have a good time regardless. Anyway, Heimdall is alive. Just another red shirt. How's it going? Glad to see you back in the chat. Very, very glad to see you here. Phantom Anise says, do you think that Moff Gideon, or whatever his name is, will be an actual threat now that we kind of know what he is doing with what happens at the end? I'm going to edit that part out just for anyone that has not seen it yet. And again, if I don't do that to a comment, I apologize, but I don't know what some people consider to be spoilers or not. But anyway, I've thought of Moff Gideon as being a threat for a long time. I just, the problem with Moff Gideon as a threat, the problem with him specifically as being a bad guy is that he has not been present in the show enough, because the show has been so obsessed with these side quests that they've fallen away from the main storyline. So my hope is that this is the point where the main storyline comes back and he does actually become more of a show threat. However, again, whether he will or not, it depends on how they write the show, because I think what's going to happen is our next episode, which is going to be written and directed by Dave Filoni, it's probably going to be all about Ahsoka Tano, most likely. And again, it makes a lot of sense for that to be the case. But something tells me that it's going to be a complete side quest featuring Ahsoka Tano, and it's also, just like the other episodes, going to leave the main storyline in the background. So yes and no. I love the actor that plays the character, and I think the character is menacing. It's just we haven't seen him enough for him to really be a known threat or quantity. Jay Stowe says, yo, Odin finally set those codes I promised. One, I was so stoked to get that 4K Steelbook for V for Vendetta. Nice! So yeah, Jay Stowe supplies me with tons of digital codes, which I feature on giveaways over on Patreon and Subscribestar. So again, if you're interested in having access to giveaways like that several times a month, $5 and up over on Patreon Subscribestar, those members get access. Let us see. All right, I'm gonna skip. There's two. Let's see here. Hardwick says Gina Carano did an interview in which she complained about how they make her use stunt women in The Mandalorian. She wants to do all her own stunts, but they don't let her. She does most of them. And again, we know that because if she does a roll or if she does a throw, the fact that they don't cut the camera away and you see her doing it the entire time is clear. My guess is that that's with specific stunts that are more dangerous, and that makes some sense only because, yes, she's a badass. Yes, she could do those stunts, but now she's also an actress, and so if she were to get injured, that would affect the show. And so it makes sense to some extent why they would want to have some protection there. But yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise, from my knowledge, does 99% of his own stunts. I imagine she does too. But what their limits are, I don't know. General Wingster says, Odin, Gina ain't that great. Remember, Cheese Larson did her own stunts too. Yeah. What are the stunts that she did? Oh, that's right. She hung from a rope. Good for her. She hung from a rope when she wasn't even hanging from the rope. Marcus Cato, welcome to the chat. Brightest day, how is it going? Glad to see you back. Orange Eye Reviews, who's a member at 728, says, when I first heard you talk about Haywire a couple months ago, I immediately looked for it, got it on sale, and loved that movie. Gina did a wonderful job. Yeah, seriously, it's a film that came out years ago now at this point, too. So it was like, I think, her first lead in any movie. And for her first lead, being a green actress, she did great. And as I said, the reason why was because they just let it be completely focused on the fact that she was doing her own fighting. And it just, again, it worked. It did very, very well. All right. Let's see. Nathan Slay says, I am not the biggest Steelbook collector, but I have the beautiful Steelbook of Avengers Infinity War. Yes, the better of the Avengers films. Pat S., who's a member, says, some of my best friends aren't ist or phobes. Most of us, I would say 99.999% of us on this channel are not ist or phobes. And the reason why it's not 100% is because trolls will always find their way into Asgard, and they themselves are usually the ists and the phobes. Orange Hat Reviews, one thing I will say about Carl Weathers, he has interacted with fans on Twitter and has not been negative at all. Yeah, seriously, Carl Weathers and Gina Carano have both done that. Each one of them. And again, that's the way that you get people to continue to support your product. Because now what is that going to do? Now, what are we going to be saying? Oh, Carl Weathers needs to direct another episode. Carl Weathers needs more screen time. Carl Weathers needs to have more focus. That's what happened with Gina Carano. Hey, Gina Carano has shown herself to be a common sense individual who defends the fans and reaches out to the fans. Guess what? We want her to have more focus. If they were to do a spinoff show featuring those two, and again, they've kind of established that as a possibility, at least at this point, with what they've set up where they are. Now, if the story continues on and stuff happens within the town and the area that they've set up and that they've been living in, then obviously that's something that could do away with this thought. But hell, they could do a spinoff show, and you know what, to be honest, I'd watch it. Carl Weathers and Gina Carano every week? Yes, thank you. Two common sense individuals that I can support and who support and love their fans? Yes. That's kind of the point of fandom. The fans show love, and the people receiving the love give it back. And yeah, are they in it for the money? Most likely. But if they're showing gratitude, you know what? That's a step in the right direction. So I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Jonathan Aldridge, glad to see you in the chat. Let us see. Looking for people who've tagged me. Again, if you are on the channel and you want your comment read out loud or question answered, you have to type Odin question, all one word, Odin question. If you tag the channel name, it does not tag up. It does not show up for me. Again, Odin question, all one word. You don't even need to have the @ symbol there if you don't want to. But basically, if you put all of those letters together, just like that, right down there, Odin question. It highlights orange on my screen. It lets me know you're trying to get my attention. Either that, or if you become a member on the channel, then obviously I will read your comments unless you've tagged someone else. And also, if you super chat or donate, and speaking of which, Michael Skew Whiff, thank you very much, man, for the super chat 8 minutes ago. He says, Michael Keaton is returning as Batman in The Flash. Yeah, that's something that was news that broke a while ago at this point, and I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited to see Michael Keaton return to the role. It's the rest of the movie that I'm unsure of, just because of the current state of the DCEU. But thank you very much, Michael, for that super chat. See, Nitrium says, I finally made it to one of these. Nitrium, welcome back. Glad to see you back in the chat, good sir. Orange Hat says, Baby Yoda uses the Force through instinct. From what I have observed, hunger, protection, healing, defense, all draw from instincts. People will complain about this, but forget Obi-Wan did this in Revenge of the Sith. Again, I won't be complaining about it because I think, as I said, I am a defender of Baby Yoda. I think Baby Yoda is a great character. I'm interested still to find out the origins of Baby Yoda and the future of Baby Yoda. But yeah, and I think that's legitimate to point out that he is powerful in the Force because people forget, right? It's been established that he's around 50 years old. So he's had many years with these powers. Now, obviously, though, he's still a child in his species, and so he doesn't have full control of these powers. And that's why it makes sense to say, yes, he's using his instincts, and that's how his powers manifest. And also, there is obviously a level of sentience there because there's times when he knows that what he can do something, right? So he knows that if he does, he knows how to heal the Mandalorian, for instance, in season 1. And so it makes sense because of what they've already laid out about the character. If you don't like it, hey, that's fine, right? I mean, everyone's entitled. You're entitled to your opinion, man. But to say it doesn't make sense does not work. Let's see. Golden Ration says, yep, Toy Story trilogy. Damn right. Damn right. There have only been 3 because 4 does not exist. It does not exist. Let's see. John O, welcome to the channel. Andrew Hoyle says, Toy Story is a trilogy just like Indiana Jones is a trilogy. Facts, Andrew Hoyle. Facts, good sir. Andrew Hoyle, speaking of which, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, here's a little something for the little one. Just take all of my bloody money. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I very much appreciate that, good sir. You are a member on the channel. You've now super chatted. And you're a Patreon member, too, as of just earlier today. So seriously, thank you, man, for the support. It really does mean a lot. All right, back over to YouTube. Rob D says, I think everyone who has ever been on YouTube has had a bad take. I think anyone that's ever lived life has had a bad take. Anyone that's ever given an opinion on anything has had a bad take at some point in their life. Just the way it goes. Rob D says, I agree with you on UK Blu-rays, Odin. Those trilogy box sets are the only way to get non-used Disney Blu-rays for cheap. Yeah, absolutely. Kick44, get that pineapple pizza emoji out of here. I should ban that. If I could find a way to have like Insta, not like bans, like hiding, but like Insta timeouts, like anytime, like I don't want the Valks to do that, but like if I could have like Heimdall like triggered to like anytime that those two things are combined together, like you get instant timed out, that'd be hilarious. That'd be fun for me at least. Oh man. All right, let's see. Mr. Roy, what's going on, Mr. Roy? Glad to see you over on the YouTube. Let's see. Super said at 740 tagged me. The awful movie in question is Easy Rider, a 60s Dennis Hopper movie. I know it's awful because I tried to watch it before and couldn't finish it. It's painfully dull. And you know what's so funny? People consider that to be a classic. And again, I guess it depends on how you define classic. I've never wanted to see that movie. All the clips that I've seen from that movie, as you said, look completely dull. Yeah, there's some films that are just not, they're not made for you. There's just some films that are not going to intrigue me. And I've mentioned that before about how one of those films that I'm willing to give a second chance to, but I don't have high hopes, is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I found it boring. I found it to be a bore. As I said, I'm willing to give it another chance. However, it was a bore. Speaking of bores, this is not a bore, but the Gutenberg has now officially completely downloaded all 60 gigs, which makes me very, very happy. Makes me very happy indeed. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and try and get another thing downloading because that's just what I do. That's just what I do, man. Let's see. Now I want to do one of the sources. English Maxi. It sounds like Maxi Pad. Let's see right there. Because I was doing them all like together, and so I realized, I need to do them all separately, and then it'll be good. All right, cool. There we go. Beautiful. Anyway, Easy Rider. Yeah, I agree with that take. Some might say it's a hot take. I would say it's a good take. But as I said, there's probably a lot of people that disagree, and that's okay. That's what happens in Asgard. We can all come together, and we can disagree, and everything's fine. Everything is smooth jamming here. That made no sense, but that's okay. Smash the like button if you're over on YouTube. We got 75 people watching. Thank you very much for being here to have fun on a Saturday evening. All right, let's jump now over to D-Lab fam. Let us see what has happened. Phonemo says, Baby Yoda's instinct to steal and attempt genocide? Yes. He's trying to preserve his species, and sometimes the way people try and preserve their species is through. That's terrible. I'm not gonna finish that comment. It's just awful. Oh man. Anyway, meanwhile in San Francisco, Nathan Slay tagged at 741. The Dark Knight Rises is probably The Godfather Part 3 of this generation, based on what everyone has been saying. Nathan Slay, I think that's a good shout. I will say Godfather Part 3 is worse, but it's a fair point. That is a fair assessment to make. Let's see. Hardwick says, I have a fondness for Easy Rider because my father witnessed it being filmed in Louisiana. One local guy was an extra in it and went around town wearing sunglasses like a movie star. Oh, Lord. And Tina B, I saw that shade you just threw at me. She said, oh no, Odin and his bad taste in steak preparation. No, it's legit taste. Legit taste. Blaze St. Clair 742 didn't like the ending of Soldado compared to Sicario's, especially seems like it tried too hard to set up another future movie. I had kind of the same problem with John Wick 3 also. Yeah, as I said, it's not as good as the first Sicario, but I think the ending's still pretty damn good, and I think it actually leaves it so that it's open-ended. So if they wanted to come back with a third film, which to be honest, I would be down for. I would love a Sicario. If you could get Denis Villeneuve to come back and you have the same writing team, that I would be opening night seeing it probably 5 times. Because that's just how good that team was in the first Sicario movie. And as I said, I think 2 was strong enough even without Denis Villeneuve. And I would just be so psyched. Because I think that would be probably one of the best modern trilogies of our era. So I hope they do. I hope they do one day. As I said, the fact that it tells a story about the southern border without being political is phenomenal. Phenomenal. All right, super tagged and says, and I'm okay. I think my crisis is just standard young people stuff. On a related note, can I ask, how do you know you're good at something? Well, you can never really know you're good at something, but just know that you are good at something. You know, everyone is talented at something. I think the problem that we have as a culture, as a human race, is that we think just because we aren't as good at something as someone else is, that means that we're not good at all. When all that means is that we might not be as good at something as someone else, but we are still good or better than that person at something else. I know that doesn't sound sensible, or at least the way I worded it might sound a little confusing and tied up, but I think the sentiment still holds true, right? Every single person in this room, every single person in this room, in this chat, and in this community is talented at something. And the question is, do we have the willpower to accept the fact that we do? And that is something that is the most difficult part of life, is accepting ourselves. It's easier to accept others than to accept ourselves sometimes, I think. And so just know that Super, you and anyone else in this chat is good at something. Doesn't mean that you're the best. What is even the best? I think the best is a relative term. I think the best is a subjective term. There is being better or worse than someone else, but if we just define ourselves by how better or worse we are than other people, that's not life. Live life to the fullest, knowing that you are good at something. Whether you've figured out what that thing is or not, just know that it's there, even if you haven't recognized it yourself. Let's see. The Truck Boys, thank you for the $5 super chat, says, the good, bad, and the ugly boring? That triggered me, but then settled down and then appreciated that this is not an echo chamber. Truck Boys, thank you for the super chat. No, I figured that would be triggering. And I know, here's the thing. I respect anyone that is a fan of that movie because there's a lot of great things about the film from a technical aspect. I just personally, subjectively found it boring. But I'm also willing to give it another chance because I did watch it on a day where I was a little tired already. And so that easily could have impacted my viewing of the movie because that has happened previously. A great example would be I saw silence in a movie theater and fell asleep throughout the entire movie. And so I woke up and I was like, oh, the movie's over. And that's a long movie, right? It's a long Martin Scorsese film. But the parts that I was awake for, I was thoroughly enjoying, and I was like, okay, I think there's a lot more to this than I'm missing out on. So then when I watched it again, I loved it. Now Silence is actually one of my favorite Scorsese films. I think it's one of his most underrated films. Now, obviously, I'm biased because I'm a Catholic and it deals with a Catholic story of two priests in Japan, but it is still something that has happened before. And so, as I said, I'm totally open for it. But yeah, this is not an echo chamber. We don't all agree with each other on everything. It might seem that way. I always love when people try to paint people that are associated with the Phantom Menace as being an echo chamber. It's like, dude, we have disagreements on a lot of things. Our core principles are similar, but I think our core principles are based on common sense. I don't know. What say you? Let's see. Soul Assassin tagged me at 743 and says, do you put steak sauce on your steak? Life or death question. I personally do not. It's not that I'm against it. It's just that I'm a plain individual. I like things plain for the most part. My burgers, just put some cheese on it and I'm good. That's all I need. I don't need any of that extra stuff. But I will put steak sauce on it if it's available and I feel like it. Again, it's kind of like a maybe, maybe not. If it's there, if it's not there. But I typically like my steak to be plain. My thought process is this. If you have to put something onto your item, it's not good enough. If you have to put lettuce and tomato onto your burger to make it taste good, then your burger's not good enough. If a burger cannot be good on its own, it's not good enough. If a steak cannot be good on its own, then it is not good enough. Now, if you're thinking, oh, no, it tastes good and I'm just enhancing the flavors, okay, maybe then. But if you're having to put sauce on something, it's kind of the mindset of if anyone's ever been to in the South, I'm still in the South technically, but in the deep South, there's Raising Cane's and there's locations now at different parts of the country too. They have this chicken that they sell. And then also up here, there's Zaxby's. In the Tennessee area, there's something called Zaxby's. Very similar companies in their mindsets. Their chicken is not good. Their chicken is not, from a taste perspective, their chicken is bland, incredibly bland, taste-wise. And it's like, oh, that's because you need the sauce. No, no, no. If you need the sauce, the chicken doesn't taste good. Period. End stop. Versus Popeye Spicy, guess what? You don't need any sauce at all. You can add sauce to try and, add flavor to it or enhance the flavor, but you could also have it by itself and it would be totally fine. And that's my mindset, is that if it can't be good on its own, it's not good enough. That's not good enough. Name that movie. Christopher Mills, what's going on, good sir? Have you watched Pacific 201 Part 1 on YouTube? What? That's such a random question. No. Judging on the red shirt tagged me at 743 and says, if it has any juice left, it's medium well. Well, thank you. Okay, then I prefer medium well. There we go. Yeah, medium or medium well tends to be my go-to. Nathan Slade, the Toy Story trilogy. Yes, trilogy is one of my favorite franchises. It's a good one, that's for sure. Andrew Hoyle, as a member, says, my mother cooks her steak so it ends up looking like the smoldering rock in the toaster oven in the end of Time Bandits. That sounds delicious. Tina says, holy frack, they gave him an Emmy for doing nothing. Why am I not shocked? My governor will be ticked off he didn't get one, but we haven't had a bunch of deaths in Kentucky. Yeah, seriously. Ridiculous. Andrew Hoyle says, Andrew and Chris Cuomo come across as two idiots who watched The Godfather too many times as kids and now think they're a couple of wise guys. Yeah, wise guy here. The similarity is that they're responsible for the deaths of thousands. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did I just say that out loud? Yes, I did. Golden Ration says, Toronto going in a lockdown for a second time because the number of bug is highest ever. That's ridiculous. Even the World Health Organization, yeah, that same organization that defended China and hid China from scrutiny when China was clearly lying about the entire corona thing at the very beginning. Yeah, that same WHO, even they say lockdowns are not good. Even the CDC and members of the CDC say lockdowns are not good because they destroy economies. And I thought honestly that a lot of this crap would stop after the election. Now, obviously, we're still in the midst of the election, so maybe that's why they're continuing. But I honestly thought a lot of it would stop because a lot of it is really not based in science. Great example is the fact that New York City is shutting down again, and guess what? Their cases, especially in the younger school-age communities, are not going up, but they're shutting down anyway. It's ridiculous what they're doing. The damage, and I've said this previously, the damage that they're doing to kids by shutting down schools is irresponsible, immoral, reprehensible, and downright criminal. And the effect and the power that these teachers' unions have in forcing the hands of these politicians or paying the hands of these politicians to make these kind of decisions is also disgusting. There's a reason why teachers' unions should probably go away. Hot take. Slicer Neon 47 says, did you play Jedi Academy? I heard speculation the last scene of the siege might be a reference to Jedi Academy's Shadow Troopers. I've never played Jedi Academy, but Ryan Cannell last night was mentioning on Friday Night Tights that there is a connection to be made to one of the one of the Legends games. Orange Chat Reviews, SM47 says, as someone who lives under the tyrannical heel of Cuomo, you'll be surprised in how openly people talk about running him out of town if he comes here. Yeah, dude, I guarantee you that there are probably, if you talk just about the space of New York State, I would say, 95% of the area in general have communities that are very much opposed to him. But unfortunately, because there happen to be a few areas centered together with millions upon millions of people who put their will and impose their will on anyone living outside of the city, because they're the idiots that continue to vote asshats like Cuomo into office, you'll probably have him still. Even with all the crazy lockdown stuff, even with the clear evidence that his decisions have led to the deaths of thousands, people will continue to vote for him because he's got that little D next to his name. I'm sure people will have fun with little D in the chat. Blake St. Clair 747 says, one of the last episodes of Tom from Midnight's Edge suggested he is doing a physical media specific show, and you would be a great person to be a guest, and plans for something like that. Yeah, so I've been talking with Tom behind the scenes about coming on to Midnight's Edge After Dark for a couple of things like that. Yeah, I'm totally down. Absolutely, totally down. The problem right now is scheduling, and it's because I have time. Only now do I have time to do my Tuesday and Saturday streams, to do a video now and then, and to do tomorrow the Chosen of Valhalla stream at 2 p.m. on the channel. By the way, I mentioned that at the very beginning as a reminder. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Chosen of Valhalla live stream. I'll be joined on the channel by my Chosen. Great group of people. But anyway, that's all I have time for right now, as far as extra stuff, because the rest of the time is going to be helping Freya, obviously taking care of baby Thor as well. And so, yeah, so I'm down. It's just timing is not really on my side right now. Soul Assassin tagged at 747. Like most Star Wars games, they start out on tutorial planets to level up, and Mando still on that planet. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It is a video game. And it works in a video game. It does not work for a live action series. Christopher Mills says, Gina is a RL Mandalorian. Prove me wrong. A real life Mandalorian. Yes. I don't have to prove you wrong because you are correct. Soul Assassin. Speaking of Brie Larson, I was at Home Depot today and thought I saw her. Turned out to be a pile of wood for sale. I see what you did there, Soul Assassin. I caught it all too late. Jace Doe at 749 as a member says, speaking of Lord of the Rings and its prequels, what are your thoughts on the original animated films? I've only ever seen The Hobbit animated from the 60s and 70s. I love it. It was something I watched as a kid all the time, and so those songs are still stuck in my head. That's why one of my favorite episodes of South Park is the one where they do Lemony Winks, because it is totally just a ripoff of the 60s, 70s Hobbit films. So good. Lemony Winks says Johnny is going far and wide. So good. It brings me back. With this like hokey music playing, but it's just so good. It's so good. I love it. All right, jump back now to D-Live. Captain Dean Heiss, thank you for the 5 ice cream donations. Daniel Thorne says, every flu season, the number of cases and such get reset. When do you think they will do the same thing for COVID since it started in November? I don't think they will. Dude, I'll be honest, I don't think they are. You have freaking Dr. Fauci going out there saying, oh yeah, it won't be until Q2 or Q3 of 2021 before you can go back to normal. But even then, you'll have to still wear a mask. It's like, shut up. Shut up. We're over it. We're done with it. Instead, go out there and say, hey, if you have a concern, if you have a family member at risk, stay quarantined by your own choice, wear a mask by your own choice, and then say, please everyone wash your hands. Here's how to wash your hands correctly. Practice basic hygiene. Be responsible. That's how it should be. Instead, it's, no, let's mandate masks. Oh, no, let's shut down the economy. Let's destroy the lives of thousands upon thousands of people who were not suffering from anxiety and depression before, but now are because they've been isolated for so long. We're not talking about that. It's interesting how those stats don't get talked about. It's interesting how those numbers don't get talked about. CNN. It's sickening to see the modern day mainstream media, which is now, it's shown its hand. It's completely untrustworthy. I will never go to, and that's a terrible thing. That is a terrible thing. The fact that I can't go to a mainstream media outlet and expect to see something that is true, that's bad. That's not a good thing. I'm glad that they're exposing themselves, and if there's anything that anyone could say positive about the recent administration, this is really not a political point. I think anyone can say the best thing about the recent administration is that it has exposed media's corruption and the messaging that media tries to push on everyone. And it's scary. It's dangerous. The fact that the media can take a story, spin it, lie about it, and motivate public opinion of a huge portion of American society is a scary thing. But it also means that they're not talking about other things that are just as important, if not more important, as well. We need to have a more balanced approach. You know, I've always said this in my classroom, and I say it now. When you have two extremes, the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle, typically. You have some people that say it's a hoax, it doesn't exist. They're wrong. You have others on the other side that say we need to lock everything down. Everyone needs to be forced to wear masks. They're wrong. Again, the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle where, hey, no, this is something that's happening. It's impacting these certain groups of people. So let's try and focus on these groups of people. Let's also try and focus on the fact that in our country, in our society, we have a very individualistic society, not in the negative sense, but rather in the personal responsibility sense. It's kind of written into our Constitution in that way. And because of that, it has to be respected as such. And the problem that we have is that people are using this as an excuse to forego those rights that individuals have. The rights that you have to travel from state to state, for instance. The rights that one has to have family over on Thanksgiving. The fact that these are the kinds of things that we're talking about now is crazy. Crazy. Daniel Thorne says, favorite Thanksgiving dish and favorite Thanksgiving dessert. Ooh, dessert easily is going to be pumpkin pie. Love me some pumpkin pie with some whipped cream. So good. And favorite dish is probably going to be stuffing. Love some classic stuffing. Daniel Thorne, burgers I like with fried onions, mainly for health reasons. Lettuce, tomato, mustard, ketchup, etc. took away from the flavor for me. Yeah, always good to have things for health reasons. Daniel Thorne then says, saw Freaky last night in the Dolby. It was pretty good. Bear McCreary did the score. Glad I caught it before replaced by the new Jackie Chan. Nice. Very, very cool. So I do like Jackie Chan films. Captain High says, I really only donate the ice cream, so I hear you sing ice cream. Well, you're welcome, Captain Heiss. That's just for you. Daniel Thorne, long live the independent press. Yeah, seriously, dude. That's why I've been going to places like Tim Pool and Timcast. I've been going to places like Newsmax, The Blaze. And the reason why is because it's not that they're unbiased. It's not that they're completely neutral. It's the fact that they're clear about what their bias is. And that to me makes it more trustworthy, because then I know that when they're telling us certain information about the story, I know that I have to look at it as someone who is trying to basically go past any of the bias that's there. Where in the modern news media, they don't believe, I think that there's some that honestly don't believe they're being biased. But that makes it even worse, because it means that their reporting on important information is going to be skewed, and it's going to be much harder to know what is true and what's not true because of that innate bias that is undeclared. It's ridiculous. That's why one of my favorite websites still to this day is Real Clear Politics, because it gives you both sides. It gives you articles from all major publications, regardless of their stances on anything. It gives you an aggregate of polls, aggregate of information, and I just think that's the most balanced approach to anything. See, Phonemo says APA. Phonemo says, apparently HBO Max is finally available on Amazon Fire TV. Took them long enough. Not sure I can care anymore. Yeah, seriously, it's been so long. I feel like they've kind of lost their moment with that. Interestingly enough, it's not on Roku yet. It's not widely available on Roku. And I mentioned this previously. Roku is the largest share, the largest portion of people that use streaming devices have Roku devices. So they're missing out still on a key grouping of people. Daniel Thorne, thank you for the 2 ice cream donations. Appreciate it. I'm glad that y'all like that. Let's see. Jumping back now to YouTube fam. Nathan Slay at 749 says, I'm grateful for Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves, and Harrison Ford for being such great physical actors, meaning they do great stunt work and fight choreography to please the fans. I agree as well. Harrison Ford hasn't done that in a while, to my knowledge, so I wouldn't put him in that group. But Tom Cruise, even at his age, still doing that stuff is awesome. That's why I look forward to Mission Impossible, not because I think the story's going to be good, but because I know it's going to have a great action and that he's going to do his own stunts, which is awesome. That's why I'm looking forward to Top Gun. Top Gun 2, my most anticipated film of this year. Will it ever come out? I don't know. Because he flies planes in it. Doesn't fly the fighter jet, but flies planes in the film, which is awesome. And yeah, Keanu Reeves, so awesome. Andrew Hoyle at 749, who's a member, says, I'm not an ist or a phobe. I hate everyone equally. Boom, there it is. JD Buck 76 750 says, what were they trying to grow in that lab in the latest episode of The Mando? I don't know. Pat S. Tonight's underrated movie is Tarantino's Jackie Brown. If your movie makes me go find and buy the book, that's a good flick. Oh, okay, yeah. That's one. I think it might be the only Tarantino film I've never seen. There's a couple that I haven't seen all the way through, but I want to say that's the only film that I've never seen at all. And I want to. Aiden Vickery 751. If the guy from New York gets an Emmy for his speech, Queen Elizabeth II gets the Oscar for hers. Yes. Jonathan Aldridge, could I say, even though it's late, happy International Men's Day? Yes, absolutely you may. Happy International Men's Day. Even though I think any international day of anything is pretty stupid. I'm just going to be honest. Let's choose this one arbitrary day for us to commend these group of people. No, shut up. Let's just support everyone every day. How about that? How about instead of giving days and months to people, we just live every day for everyone? Rob D, for episode 200, everyone must bring food. We shall have a Viking feast, and then we fight. I've eaten on stream before, and people tend not to like it. Some people that just don't like that kind of stuff. By the way, 9 minutes ago, Nico Blue, thank you very much, man, for the super chat, says, keep up the fine work, sir. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nathan Slade 72 says, I am unhappy that Ezra Miller is returning as the Flash. I agree. And yes, Grant Gustin would have been much better. Hardwick says, have you seen The Running Man starring Arnold Schwarzenegger? No, I have not. By the way, we are getting close to time, so I'm going to start to possibly skip through some comments, especially from people that have been posting a lot who are not members. If you're a member, I will read your comment. That's one of the perks of being members. But I do ask you to post responsibly. Jonathan Aldridge, 74, tagged me and said, I have seen Toy Story 4. It exists. I'm sorry to blow other followers' comments out the water. No. Here's the thing. You may have seen a film that names itself and calls itself Toy Story 4. However, it's not really a Toy Story movie because it's terrible. Unlike the other three, which are great films, Toy Story 4 is trash and therefore is not really a Toy Story movie. Ergo, you are incorrect. And also, please do not ever post your comment more than once, good sir. I fall behind in the chat. It's just what happens. Alrighty. Anyway, someone said fudge. That's funny. Ooh, that's funny. Alrighty. Let us see. Where did we leave off in the chat? Rachel. Some retracted messages there. Oh, man. Tons of comments. How many people are here? 78 people watching. So we didn't go at just a lot of people with lots of comments. That's okay. All right. As I said, I will have to be skipping some comments. I do apologize. Let's see. Michael Skew, have you ever seen the Leprechaun movies with Warwick Davis? I haven't. I've seen parts of it, just not really my thing. General Wingster Tad says, Odin's plain, well done hockey pucks that don't need no sauce. General Wingster, I hate you. You pet troll, I hate you so much. Alrighty. JKD-Buck76, chicken that needs sauce to be good is like a Star Wars sequel trilogy with all of its books and comics we have to buy to like it. Yes, JKD-Buck, shout out to you. That is correct. Let's see, Jace Doe at 805. He's a member. He says, a touch of Heinz 57 on steak is good for me, but A1 is just nasty. Yeah, I've heard of people putting ketchup on their steaks. That I don't get. That to me is odd. Putting nothing on it is fine. Putting something like ketchup? No. Oh, Lordy. All right, let's see. Nathan Slay says, I know Zaxby's. Nice, good sir. Golden Ration at 807. Schools open in Toronto, though. Just all the places where people can gather is banned, which is, again, ridiculous. Seriously. Super says, thanks, Odin. I don't know if this is good or not, but life hits me sometimes, and doubting myself is bad enough, but doubting myself on something I'm paying thousands for sucks. Yeah, I mean, college especially, I mean, here's the thing. It is what it is, man. At the end of the day, that's what it is. I know that might not be the best advice, but as someone who's still paying off college debt myself, trust me, you're not. Here's the other big thing, Super. You are not alone. There are thousands upon thousands of people who go to school for 4 years, building up debt, studying something that either one, they're not actually going to pursue, two, they don't like, or three, that they're just gonna change to do something else after the fact anyway, and that's okay. Basically, here's the mindset and philosophy for college, especially when you're still in college. Are you enjoying what you're learning? If you are, great. If you're not, you might want to consider seeing if you can change. And if you can't, try and have as much fun as you can while you can. Jay Stowe says, sucks how politic got it grubby hands on this virus. What? What, Jay Stowe? What? 13th Warrior, our governor stated it breaks his heart to see school districts in the state which have not reopened. Yeah. There's going to be so many schools that never recover. Businesses, the sad thing, I've gotten so many reports from my local news about restaurants that have forever closed, who have been here for years and had to close because of all this nonsense. That pisses me off. I don't get angry often, but that gets me. Eric K., Father Christopher Miller, hail to y'all. Thanks for being here. Hardwick says, if Sidney Powell's claims are true, Cuomo and his ilk might not be getting voted in. Yeah, I mean, it's again, if they're true, it's a big if, Hardwick. They got to prove it in court. And I don't know if they're going to have time to do that. I mean, that you realize that is going to be the most controversial, the most devastating ruling, the most devastating case in American history. You do realize that. And to say that they can get all of that done in 3 weeks, I'm not saying they can't get some of it done, but they're definitely not going to get all of it done in 3 weeks. So that's why I said it might be enough to overturn things, to change things. Or really, I hate that expression of overturning because, no, at that point, it would be saying, here's what actually happened. But it's too much is going on. Too much is going on. Father's a member says, one of my daily mass goers just came down with the beer bug. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. I know that you have an older demographic at your church, so I hope that they're okay. And obviously, even at the older age, their chances of survival are pretty good. Because even for them, it's over 98% survival rate. But obviously, it's a higher risk for them. So I will be praying for your congregation. Soul Assassin says, Dr. Fauci looks like the main bad guy in Demolition Man and evil Mr. Rogers. Oh, man. Super says, I'm just glad the U.S. has a constitution. Have you heard what's going on in Western Europe? It's insane. Yeah, no, seriously. And we need that. And that's why, again, we need to have it. I'm so glad we do have it because without it, you're right. It would be complete chaos. Even more chaotic than it is now. Nigo Blue, what's going on? He's a member. He says, how are you doing today? Glad to see you here. Jonathan Aldridge tagged and says, I saw a news reporter ask UK politicians to clarify because she had no idea what they were saying. I'm not surprised. James Dachier, what's going on, good sir? Do you think we will see a civil war if these lockdowns continue? No. I know that Tim Pool's kind of floated that around sometimes. Civil war being like civil war now. Will we see more riots? Will we see people fighting back? Yes. But not in a sense of a civil war. I think that's too extreme of a concept. But no, you're already seeing elements of it with the lockdowns continuing in certain places, people are fighting back. And I think what's going to happen is, to be honest, the fight that needs to happen is in the courts. I think that citizens of these cities and these states that are locking down need to file class action lawsuits against their governors, against their government officials, because you might be able to set a precedent. You might be able to actually win and either get these people to step out of office and therefore lose their position, lose their job, have to pay hefty fines, or just completely lift. The main victory there would say no longer can they implement these lockdowns legally. But that's what needs to happen. That's where the fight is going to happen. It's going to be in the courts, and it's going to be against these governors, against these mayors, against these individuals that are doing these really tyrannical things in the realm of public safety. But again, it's not really their job to shut people down and to destroy businesses. All right. Nathan says, Fox News exposed themselves as trash. Well, I mean, all major news agencies are trash. So let's see. Mutant Bam Hammer, that's a new name, says, what do you think about Tim Pool's idea that Democrats lock down because they don't want to be blameable for deaths that happen from COVID? I don't know about that necessarily, but it would make sense. It definitely would make sense. Here's the problem, though, is that the lockdowns don't work. So they can still easily be blamed. As I said, when you deal with New York and Cuomo, a lot of the measures that he's implemented have led to the deaths because this is something that's been reported and has been recorded, where you have individuals in, nursing homes, for instance, where people who are positive were put back into those nursing homes, and they have one of the highest rates of deaths specifically in nursing homes in his state. So his measures led to that. All right, I do need to start wrapping things up. Nico Blue, all glad and fine to see you again. Glad to see you here. So again, it's just members from this point forward. So Tina says, our governor said no more than 8 to a household at Thanksgiving. Yeah, screw. Here's the thing that's pissed me off. I have family that live in Pennsylvania. And because their governor is fear-mongering, and because the media is fear-mongering, all this nonsense, their schools are closing back down again, and they're not coming for Christmas. And that makes me very upset, because I was very much looking forward. I haven't seen them in a long time. They have not met Baby Thor yet. And I know they made these decisions out of their own safety and out of thinking of the safety of their families. And again, so that's why I don't judge them at all. But it pisses me off that we live in a country that has so much fear-mongering going on that now people are afraid to visit family. It's ridiculous. Eric K., great to see you. Good sir. Glad to see you here, man. Father says 2 ice cream donations would require you to say ice cream 2 times, doesn't it? It does. No, not necessarily. Tina B., Jackie Brown is really good. Eric K., will you have a peaceful protest over the death of prize family bird with the family this Thanksgiving? We probably won't have actually a family bird for a wide variety of reasons. Father says International Buy a Priest a Beer Day is September 9th. Of course it is. Oh, Lord. All right, so just members, just so I can get through all of this stuff. Again, I'm very sorry for skipping any comments, but we are indeed at the end of time. Actually, over time now, but I do want to give my members their due. Let us see. Father says 5, their gender studies. No! Jsta was meaning how the virus has become a political pawn. Yeah, how they are locking things down. Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. It has completely become political. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, man. All right, let's see. Any more comments? Orange Hat, I would love to see these governors enforce their unlawful restrictions. They're not tabulated as law, so they can't do squat. And if they do, they will be sued. Yeah, seriously, that is one thing I am looking forward to the most, are from lawsuits against these governors. Seriously, I think that is something that needs to happen. I hope it does happen, and I cannot wait to see the courts win. Daniel Thorne, thank you again for those ice creams, man. Let's see. Daniel says, if the Boston Tea Party over D-Live, the Boston Tea Party happened today, do you think it'd get fact checked and they talk about how good taxes are? They absolutely would. That's a great comment to leave on. Thank you everyone so very much for your support and love tonight. Seriously, it's been a crap ton of fun. So first off though, let me shout out all of the members of the channel who are at the Army of Asgard and Keeper of the Bifrost level. Of course, I say that and then they don't load. And so now I've got to just press the refresh button over there and try and get things started. And again, I just want to make sure that I'm able to... No, I don't want that. Lordy, what are you doing? All right. Sorry. Now I feel like, oh, yes, I feel like Gary. I'm acting just like Gary over here. All right, so shout out to Nico Blue, Fear is the Mind Killer, Andrew Hoyle, Eric K, Orange Hat Reviews, Adam Avery, The Bosco 2000, Twirly Wolf, Jay Stowe, and Aiden Vickery. Thank you very much for being my $5 and up members over on YouTube. Seriously, you're great. And Tina, thank you for reminding me. I've said it a couple times tonight, but yes, tomorrow we'll be streaming at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and it'll be the Chosen of Valhalla stream. So my Chosen, pay attention to the Twitter messaging. And also, again, Andrew Hoyle, thank you for becoming the newest member. So you're not in the video yet, but shout out to you for being the newest member on Patreon. Thank you very much, good sir. And again, if you want to join, just read that message over on Patreon, and you'll get more information, and we'll try and get you set up. So shout out to the Wrenches, Tina and Steph. Thank y'all both for being here, for being awesome, amazing, and beautiful people. Seriously, you guys are all wonderful. I love you guys. D-Laugh fam, you guys are great. I'll try and take care of y'all if I can. YouTube fam, of course, thank you so very much. All to the members, of course, to Tina and Steph, the Valks, and to everyone for being here tonight. And again, thank y'all so very much for all of your support. You guys are amazing. Have a wonderful night, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my November Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Father Damian Cook, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wienerdog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunker Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jay, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Laura Story ×2, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Outpost Dyer, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, or Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all for being my Patreon members, and a shout out, of course, to my Subscribe Star members, stand for John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nabadan G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you to my Subscribe Star and Patreon members for supporting me for this month. I hope that you are enjoying your perks of getting access to things like a podcast, to giveaways, and also, of course, to other exclusive content. I know I've fallen a little bit behind with the birth of Baby Thor, and so I thank you very much for your patience and, of course, for your continued support. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.